Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ Pearson, thank you so much for joining us, especially today, a day where we are all mourning at Charlie Kirk's death. It still doesn't really feel real. You've known Charlie since you were 12 years old. I mean, we all feel like we've known him, we've watched him for years, just being so brilliant. But he was with you when you were just 12. Can you share with us a bit about that time?
You know, it's insane to talk about right now. Yeah, you're right. I've known this since I was 12 years old. I'm 23 years old now. When I was just starting out in this movement, making videos in my childhood bedroom, growing up in a Democrat household, he was one of the first people in the conservative movement to reach out to me, to encourage me even when my parents weren't encouraging me.
Wow.
Someone who did that for many people in this movement, many young conservatives. He would reach out to them and say, hey, that was a great video. That was a great interview that you did, because he was dedicated to building up and uplifting the next generation of conservative leaders. And if that is the legacy that he has, I think it will be an incredibly righteous one.
Absolutely. I mean, talk to us about the impact that he had on last year's election result. I mean, Charlie Kirk and yourself, CJ, you two were able to get young people and turn out to vote Republican in a way that had really never been seen before. I mean, the huge wave of Gen Z voters voting for Donald Trump. I mean, speak to us about how he was able to do that.
Yeah, Charlie was instrumental in all of this. Everything from, the infrastructure that Turning Point USA had on college campuses all throughout the country, to the incredible ballot chasing efforts that he led in key swing states. This was a man who was an integral part of President Trump's return to the White House. And I think the president has spoken to that. We wouldn't have been able to turn out young men in the way in which we were, or young voters altogether, without the tireless effort of Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's incredible leadership. And so, it's this massive hole left, in our party right now, in our movement right now. But again, to the point that I made earlier, this was a guy who was always focused on building up the people that would succeed him, even at such a young age, right? You don't think about successors at 30 years old, right? No one thinks about that, but he was always someone who believed in building up the next generation. And he's incredible.
He absolutely is. And I think so many of us just feel like we do know him and we've seen his journey for a long time. Like, he's been kind of fighting for conservative voices bravely for such a long time. I mean, here is Charlie Kirk back in 2012 on Fox News.
Chapters nationwide with Turning Point USA, and on our website turningpointusa.net you'll see the unbelievable positive support we're having from my generation. And using these memes, we're able to engage them in such a unique and exciting way. We're going to open a chapter every single day leading up to the election, and kids are starting to wake up, and they have to, because the fiscal cliff is coming, and if we don't get our fiscal house in order, our country's never going to be the same.
Looking at that, I just feel like he was so ahead of his time, wasn't he? He had such a strong vision and he dedicated his life to making America better.
He absolutely was. For a lot of young conservatives, he was absolutely the blueprint, for how we could figure out how to make an impact, how we could, do what we could do to make America great again, but also the important work to keep America great. And so to see that video from 2012 and to see him sustain that incredible work up until now is a testament to just how dedicated he was to making sure the American dream was attainable for his children, which I think is, again, another tragic element of this story. He was an incredible father, a husband. He leaves behind two incredible, beautiful children. And my heart breaks for him, for them and his family as well.
Oh, me too. I think when we all had our moments of just feeling the grief and the sadness, our hearts absolutely break for his wife Erica and two young children. And that is something he spoke about so much, that he proudly shared with his audience, that how proud he was to be a husband, to be a father. And he really had that message to younger generations, that is something to aspire to. No matter what side of politics you're on, really what matters is, especially for Charlie, faith in God, faith in family, and your love of country. And he just became, of course, such an influential figure, as an icon, and was featured on South Park just a couple of months ago. But he, of course, always had such a great sense of humour. He was able to laugh about it. Here's his reaction.
Hey everybody, apparently I am going to be on South Park next week. That's right. Cartman is going to be playing me on campus. Watch this trailer.
Wednesday, August 6th.
You can just shut up, baby, because you hate America and you love abortion.
On an all-new South Park.
Honestly, I think this is hilarious. They're probably going to roast me. They're going to make fun of me. And you know what? We need to be able to take jokes as conservatives. And that is what makes us different than libs, different than those on the left. We can laugh at ourselves. We can be made fun of. We can kind of have a lighthearted attitude about it. Can't wait to see these professional comedians and the South Park legends do what they will do with our viral campus tours.
CJ, I love it. He brought so much humor. He was happy to have a laugh about himself. And I actually love the South Park roasting. I think he really kind of nailed Charlie Kirk there. Call out people saying you hate America. But it was amazing. Yeah. He was able to change the minds of young people in real time. We were witnessing it.
You're right. He was a happy warrior, but he was also someone willing to go reach young people where they were, which was their college campuses. He crisscrossed the entire country, and he invited discussion. He wasn't going there just to lecture them. He wanted the people that disagreed with him to be the first to come to the mic, the first to ask a question, and he was going to go back and forth with them. And that's the type of dialogue that we're missing in America. It's the type of dialogue that we're missing in the West. People oftentimes want to isolate themselves, their echo chamber, and never talk to someone who disagrees with them. Charlie actively encouraged it and welcomed it. And I think that that's exactly what we need more of in this country. It's exactly what we need more of across the world, because that's when we actually start to understand one another. And it's a shame that, loving America, loving his God, loving his family, which should be uncontroversial in any country, was so controversial to someone that it cost him his life. It's disgusting, it's depraved, and it's the very definition of evil.
Absolutely. As you say, Charlie was able to engage in debate on all topics and speak fearlessly, fiercely, and that is what we need in a democratic country. I mean, you should go without saying, have to lose your life for speaking the truth. And he was so passionate about such important issues that often would get missed or overlooked by the mainstream media that you and I have spoken about previously, CJ. But most recently, he was constantly speaking out about the brutal murder of Irina Zarutska, this Ukrainian refugee, 23 years old, that was slaughtered on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. And if it wasn't for voices like Charlie and others, like Elon Musk was also calling out this horrific murder as well, this would have been missed by the mainstream media because they were ignoring this attack. And I was just on Charlie's Instagram obviously this morning, and it was only, I think, 12 hours ago that he was posting about Irina Zarutska. Let's just take a look at this.
Okay, everybody, you've probably heard the situation that happened in North Carolina. Say the name Irina Zarutska. Irina Zarutska was just riding public transit. By the way, she was a refugee from Ukraine, of all places, and she came to Charlotte, North Carolina. And a terrible person, well, you saw what happened. I can't describe it here on TikTok without some sort of community guideline being violated. But if you haven't seen the video, you absolutely should. This individual should not have been on the streets, 14 prior arrests. And it really makes you wonder, why are we putting up with this? Why are we allowing so many people that have committed these crimes to keep on being released? The magistrate judge continued to release this individual, and this is a horrific thing. It's really interesting. The media was totally covering George Floyd, tens of thousands of articles, reconfigured and changed the entire American body politic. Yet when it came to Irina Zarutska, the entire media was quiet, silent. In fact, we forced them to cover the story. Why do you think that is?
I think it says so much that this is what Charlie was doing just in the moments up until his death. He was speaking out. He was speaking out for Irina Zarutska. And if it wasn't for people like Charlie, this story would have been completely missed by the media.
It was all gas, no brakes for Charlie all the time. This was a man who was so dedicated to his country in a way in which I find almost incomparable. I tweeted earlier today, I don't think there's anyone I know who loved his country, loved his family, and loved his God more than Charlie Kirk. And, of course, God bless him for shining a light on what happened to Irina in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was failed by progressive policies there, and hopefully she gets the justice that she deserves. But hopefully Charlie also does as well. It's unfortunate that this assassin is still on the loose. We have not yet detained him. Hopefully that will change soon, but it's tragic. It's very, very tragic.
It's so tragic. CJ, before I let you go, I just want to get your kind of final thoughts, really, on the impact, of course, that this has had on so many Americans, but particularly Gen Z voters. And I suppose there's going to be so much time where we have to mourn and heal the loss of Charlie Kirk. I mean, I still can't believe that it's real. But as you spoke about the legacy he leaves behind, I mean, what an incredible one, that he was able to touch so many lives, make such a huge impact. And I suppose, what do you see going forward? I know we'll continue to honour Charlie Kirk, but really, can you speak to the movement that he's created and how that will live on?
To quote President Trump, we've got to continue to fight, fight, fight. I think that is the legacy that Charlie is leaving, and I think that's what he would want us to continue to do. This cowardly attack was meant to deter us. It was meant to instill fear into us that would make us become silent. We can't afford to be silent. We're on the precipice of some of the most important fights that our country, that Western civilization has ever seen in our entire lives. And it's up to Gen Z to channel his passion, to channel his energy, and to fight for the country that Charlie Kirk ultimately gave his life for. And so I think that is our command. That is our charge. That is what we must do. And I'm all in on that. And I think many of my peers are as well, because we have no choice but to be. We will not let these people win. We will not let these evil, satanic, just absolutely just terrible people win the day. We will win the day.
So well said. CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.